Putin says that Ukraine doesn't want to end the war, so Russia claims it seems no chance for peace talks. At the same time, Russian TV openly threatens Europe with nuclear weapons, saying that as long as Europe exists, there will be no peace in the world. My name is Albina Pidhirnyak. More important news coming up next. In Russia, they brought back Karaganov back to TV shows. He hadn't appeared for some time because of his extreme views of nuclear weapons. Now it seems that his radical and dangerous rhetoric is considered useful again.
The conflict with the West, especially with Western Europe, for them, is existential for these elites. But for us, it is also existential in nature, because if we, God forbid, miss and lose, well, or half-win this war, it will trigger the collapse of our political system. This is the first thing. Therefore, sooner or later, or better sooner, we need to start to use actively nuclear deterrence, intimidation. Moreover, we are also called to do this by those sacrifices that we have suffered for the sake of creating these nuclear weapons. In order to build these nuclear weapons, several million people have died, from starvation. Here. And there we made huge sacrifices. The fact that we don't use it now is part weakness, part stupidity, partly excessive humanity.
Karaganov also spoke about negotiations. He said that there is no point in talks because Russia's goal is to destroy Europe.
Yes, there is a certain process. It does not cause any enthusiasm in me. Another thing is that, on the force of the circumstances, well, Trump proposed very unfavorable agreements for us, but maybe they will be beneficial in terms of us stopping the war and the murder of our soldiers for a while. But this is not a solution to the problem. When we achieve some kind of truce, we will still have to understand that the main source of trouble is Europe. Until we defeat it morally, we would not like it physically, the situation will not be resolved. Another thing is that there can be several stages. It is quite obvious that from the point of view of even territorial, this is not only Donbass, but it is also the east of Ukraine and the south of Novorossiya. But the main source of trouble is again Europe, which has returned to its usual role in human history, which boiled down to the fact that it was the fiend of all sins and misfortunes of humanity. Racism, colonialism, wars, monstrous ideologies, world wars. And now, having forgotten about their guilt before humanity and forgetting about their own history, again, well, their elites, of course, do not extend to ordinary Europeans, among whom there are many normal people left, although there are fewer and fewer of them. So, they need to be brought to their senses.
Putin started a live call-in show with Russian citizens. He made a number of cynical statements. In particular, he said that Ukraine is to blame for people's deaths and claimed that Russia didn't start this war.
We do not consider ourselves responsible for the loss of life, because we did not start this war. This war was started after the coup d'etat in Ukraine, the unconstitutional armed coup in 2014, and then the beginning of hostilities by the leaders of the Kiev regime against their citizens in the southeast of Ukraine. For our part, for a long time we did not recognize independence at that time.
Putin says that Russia was supposedly ready for compromises even after Anchorage, but now he claims the problem with ending the war is Ukraine.
In the meeting with President Trump in Anchorage, we agreed and practically agreed with President Trump's proposals. Therefore, to say that we reject something is absolutely incorrect and has no grounds. At the preliminary meetings in Moscow, proposals were made to us, and we were asked to make certain compromises. When I arrived in Anchorage, I said that these would not be easy decisions for us, but we agree with the compromises offered to us. Therefore, to say that we reject something is completely incorrect and has no grounds. The issue is entirely in the court of our Western opponents, so to speak, primarily the leaders of the Kiev regime and their, in this case, primarily European sponsors. We are ready for negotiations and for the end of the conflict by peaceful means.
Putin is clearly upset by the decision Europeans made earlier about frozen Russian assets.
And most importantly, whatever they steal and no matter how they do it, they will have to give it back someday. But above all, we will protect our interests. Well, where? First of all, in the courts. We will try to find a jurisdiction that will be independent of political decisions. Well, what if this happens? You just have to start, and then it can be done and replicated under various pretexts. Now someone does not like the conduct of a special military operation and the fight against neo-Nazism in Ukraine. And then someone may not like, say, the policy in the field of the LGBT community. And in Muslim countries, in Islamic countries, there are many very strict laws to protect their traditional, well, in fact, a common traditional values. We do not have such laws, but there are. So here you are, a pretext for the seizure of sovereign funds, sovereign resources, and money. Why not? They can find another object, another reason.
The Russian dictator also explained the word little pigs, which he recently used to describe European leaders. He said he didn't mean anyone specific. For such insults, Putin usually has Medvedev, who has already switched to prison-style slang in his rhetoric.
How do you assess the actions of these European pigs? Thank you for the new diplomatic term. What will be Russia's reaction to the threats on the western borders of our common home, the Union State?
Well, as for the definition, it popped up in my mind as if in the process of communicating with a military audience. I didn't mean anyone in particular. In general, I never get personal and do not allow myself anything like that. I had in mind a group of people as a whole, an indefinite group of people, as lawyers say.
And finally, some good news. For the first time, Ukraine's security service hit a tanker from Russia's shadow fleet in natural waters of the Mediterranean Sea. We can watch the video. And I'd like to end this news with the Ukrainian song Rhetoric that was played at one of DTEC's destroyed power stations. The video is very emotional.
Щедрик, щедрик, щедрівочка, прилетіла ласточка.
Dear viewers, thank you for watching this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Support Ukraine. See you next time.